If you are getting into cybersecurity right now, you've probably wondered, am I training for a job that isn't going to exist in a few years? AI is already writing code, analyzing logs, and finding vulnerabilities. I've been in this field for 15 years, and the answer isn't yes or no. It's a lot more uncomfortable than that. You see, I have a son that's really into both Batman and Spider Man. And so one day we're sitting outside by the fire, and I said to him, "So, if Batman and Spider Man were to get into a fight, who would win?" And he thought for a minute, and he said, "Batman and Spider Man." See, I wish I could tell you straight up, AI is replacing cyber jobs, go be a plumber. Or else, AI isn't replacing anyone, don't worry about it. But the hard truth is, just like if Spider-Man and Batman fought, they both would win, I can't in good conscience tell you one way or the other 100%. Because the bottom line is, both answers are kind of true. Let me explain why. Okay, let's put aside all the fear-mongering and sales pitches. What is AI really that makes it so helpful? Well, AI is extremely good at extracting relevant information from extremely large data sets, and then turning around and presenting that information in a more digestible manner. That's really all it is. That's the bottom line. Now, are you good at that? No, because you're human, and humans aren't good at quickly enumerating extremely large data sets to find the tiny bits of information that they're actually interested in. So to level set everything, AI's primary benefit is something that you're already not expected to be good at. I've heard it said that AI is the fastest librarian in the world, but it still needs a human to decide what is the book that actually matters. So before everybody gets all excited, that's really all AI is good at. I'm making this video in response to the fact that I am extremely tired of hearing people say AI is going to replace everyone's jobs and it's the apocalypse and everything. And while AI is great, I use ChatGPT on a daily basis. Claude Code is one of my favorite AI models at the moment. It has its limitations. And a lot of the talk that you hear about, oh, AI is going to replace everybody's jobs, a lot of that is talk by AI companies trying to sell investors on their product, or C-suite executives claiming AI is going to reduce their workforce by a certain percentage. A lot of that is them just trying to make it look like their company is going to be on the cutting edge. And that's fine. I'm not saying that they're lying, but I'm saying it's a little bit more complicated than that. You know, it's great. I love it. Like I said, I use it all the time, but let's not get carried away. It does have limitations. And I know people are saying, oh, well, you know, those we're going to overcome those limitations soon. Well, maybe. I mean, we'll see. And that kind of brings me to my next point. AI is analogous to the invention of the computer. See, back in the 1980s, the small office computer was just starting to be widely used, and everybody was afraid that it was going to replace everyone's jobs. And while it did replace some people's jobs, it didn't replace everybody. And in fact, in a lot of ways, it turned out to be just more of a tool for people to use than it was an actual replacement for humans. It actually just ended up making humans better at what they were already doing. For instance, computers didn't replace accountants. They just made accountants faster and more efficient at what they were doing. Now, when it comes to cybersecurity and AI potentially replacing your job, you got to remember cybersecurity isn't just technical knowledge like AI, which has access to these massive data sets. A big part of being a good cybersecurity professional is utilizing good judgment and making good judgment calls. This is something that AI is not yet good at, because there's a lot of risk in just, spinning up AI and then just letting it run free in your environment. And humans just aren't prepared for that risk yet. At higher levels, you have middle managers and C-suite executives making risk decisions based on data sets that they receive from their subordinates. So you can think of AI as another subordinate, just feeding data sets to humans to make decisions off of. Now, will AI replace some of those people grinding through that data to present to leaders so they can make risk decisions? Sure. Sure, possibly. But this is to say that, AI can suggest things, but it's still humans that have to make that decision. And I've heard specifically about people claiming that AI can just pen test on its own and they won't need a human pen tester anymore to perform, these quarterly or annual pen tests or whatever is needed to meet some policy requirements. Let me tell you, I have a lot of friends that are pen testers, and pen testing is it's hypersensitive because a bad pen tester can come in there and really wreck a company's network and bring the whole network down potentially for days. And pen testing companies and the clients of these pen testing companies are not going to want to accept that risk of just dropping AI on somebody's network and saying, hey, try to hack this network, because things can get out of control super fast and then the lawsuits start flying. And the one thing that pen testing companies want to avoid or minimize is lawsuits from their clients. So we're not quite there yet for just dropping AI onto a company's network and letting it pen test. That's still tightly controlled. And I foresee it as always being tightly controlled based on my conversations I've had with my friends who are professional pen testers. And also, on the more military side, you have nation states that hack each other, different countries hacking each other. And the thing is those countries are normally, I would say a good 90% of the time, they're interested in more of the red team quiet movement, quiet lateral movement through a network. They're not interested in just getting in there and just bashing another country's, military infrastructure. They kind of want to sit. They usually want to put like a back door in there and just gather information. And so they're not going to use AI probably to just smash and grab stuff out of another country's network either. So the whole thing about AI doing automated pen testing now, it's definitely great for assistance. I mean, all cybersecurity professionals are using it, but we're definitely not at the point where, from a risk acceptance standpoint, that we're going to allow AI to just run free on anybody's network. That's just not a reality at this point. Maybe sometime in the future, I can't tell the future, but we're not there yet. And that brings me to another point. AI won't take your job, but here's a bottom line. Somebody using AI might take your job. So that's what we have to think about. We have to stop thinking about AI as a replacement and start thinking about AI as an assistant, which is what I use it for every day. So in reality, what we're probably looking at is the people who don't know how to use AI potentially losing their jobs. But again, this goes back to the example of this being analogous to the invention of the computer. It's not that people who don't know how to use computers aren't employed. It's just that you're way more employable if you know how to use a computer. Think about it that way. If you throw a rock at someone, it could hurt them. But if you load some gunpowder behind that rock and shoot it from a gun, you could potentially kill someone. Now, the rock is still just a rock, but its potency is accelerated by the gunpowder. And AI is kind of the same way for cybersecurity professionals. You still need cybersecurity people, but their ability to be efficient and get things done has been rapidly accelerated by their use of AI. So AI probably won't replace cybersecurity professionals. It'll just raise the bar for entry into the field, which is probably something that you already suspected in the first place. So it's not that a lot of these jobs are going to go away. It's just that average performance won't necessarily be good enough anymore to get by and keep your job. So, what this means is the bottom 20% of performers are the ones that could lose their jobs to AI. And if you think about it this way, the low performers, their jobs were in danger anyway. So AI could have just accelerated the fact that they were going to get laid off or let go from the company. So if you're a top performer in your field, or maybe just even in the top 50%, you're probably okay. I mean, we're nowhere near being replaced by robots quite just yet. So, what can you do to protect yourself from being replaced by AI? Well, the safest people in the future aren't going to be those that are the most experienced. It's going to be those that are the fastest learners. And with cybersecurity being the type of field it is already, where you already have to be a super fast learner and constantly update your skills, this isn't really all that much different from what it was before AI. So remember, cybersecurity people aren't being replaced. Their skill sets are really just being accelerated. And if you want to stay on the cutting edge, you have to learn how to use AI. If you ignore using AI in cybersecurity, you're competing against people who are not ignoring AI. So your competition is going to have an edge over you. So if you're not using it now, just slowly, use the free version. Maybe slowly start integrating it into your daily workflow. See where you find it to be super helpful. See where it's not super helpful to you. Just dip your toe in the AI pool right now and see where it can be useful to you. It's not really that big of a deal, just start getting used to it. Again, going back to the invention of the computer, the people who started getting good with computers first were, they ended up being the most employable. And now we're at the point where, for most jobs out there, you have to at least have some sort of computer fluency in order to do your job. So AI isn't necessarily here to replace cybersecurity professionals. It's just here to expose the bad, or at least average ones. So no, AI isn't coming for your job, but somebody using it might. So from there, the real question becomes, are you next? Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.